Friends, I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about the current circumstances that we find ourselves and our families in here currently in the United States. And what I'd like to say is I believe that we are kind of experiencing the outer bands of a Cat 5 hurricane storm. And I believe as the weeks and months go on, especially over the next 6 to 8 months, that we will be getting closer and closer to the center of the eye of this Category 5 storm. It's made up of a lot of different things, from the coronavirus to racial issues to rioting to the next presidential election. All these things are creating this storm of where people are divided, that people are on one side or the other, that people are making enemies, that there is so much speech that is full of hate and anger. You can look at it on Facebook, you can look at it on Twitter, or on your local news or national news, and it's constant and it's daily and it's everywhere, and we can even find ourselves in the middle of it. And this is creating a lot of hate, a lot of enemies, a lot of division. And as believers, how do we respond in the midst of a massive storm like this? And I want to read to you guys from Matthew to hear what Jesus has to say that I think is really critical for us as believers in this time. And this is Jesus' longest sermon that was recorded for us, the Sermon on the Mount. And he gets to the sixth command here that he is teaching upon. And this is what he says. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons," don't miss that, "so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? If you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? Therefore you are to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." And here is what Jesus is saying to us as his followers. He is saying, listen, the one thing that marks our heavenly Father is the way that he loves his enemies. He says that he sends the sun and the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous, on the evil. See, our Heavenly Father still even treats those that are evil and his enemies with good, which isn't that what he did for you and I? That we were once his enemies and he reconciled us to himself through the blood of Christ on the cross. That God in Jesus was loving towards us. Friends, if we're honest, you and I can easily find ourselves in conversations and find ourselves in arguments and find ourselves creating enemies and full of anger with many of these issues that we're dealing with right now. And it can divide us from the people that we hope to share the good news with, the gospel with. And what Jesus is saying to us here is he's saying we cannot be any more like our Father who is in heaven when we as believers are marked with love. The way that we love those that are mean or evil towards us, that are full of hate towards us, that might totally disagree with our viewpoints, that he says we are to love them. And he says, listen, unbelievers love those that love themselves. He says, but to love those that are hard to love those that are against the things that you are for, that's hard. He says that's what marks us as believers. It's the way that we love. And right before Jesus goes through these commands that he talks about, he says this in his message. He says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put under put a basket, but a lampstand, and gives it light to all who are in the house. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven." So the one way that we make our light shine bright for our Heavenly Father, so that those around us, when they see the way that we live, when we see the way we respond to issues, when we talk, they see love. They hear love. They see our good deeds. And they see that the way that we respond to the issues of the culture right now, the way that we respond to people, even people that totally are in disagreement to us, is they see that we're marked with love, not with hate, not with anger. And so, friends, I am challenged by our Savior's words. And I want to encourage you and challenge you to think about for yourself and for your family. At this time, are you being marked with love? Are you identifying yourself with your Heavenly Father through the way that you love? And not getting caught up in all of this noise that's going around us. Because we can easily find ourselves in a spot where we're hating, or create lots of enemies, or are full with anger. But we may be lights, like a city on a hill. May we be salt of the earth that points those around us to a loving Heavenly Father. That while we were enemies, God reconciled us to Himself.